Thank you. Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting for Tuesday, April 3rd. The proposed agenda is, we're going to take these a little bit out of order, but we have the May 7th, 2018 annual and special town meeting warrants. We'll review the articles, have discussions and recommendations. Nick is here from the Littleton Light and Water Department. We'll get updates on the warrant articles for water, and including a $7 million borrowing for a new well field and water treatment plant at Wickham Ave. And then we have a Littleton Common Sewer update, review of the article for $1.5 million borrowing. Annual report, review and discussion, financial dashboard discussion, member updates, public input, and minutes. So why don't we start with you, Nick, get things going with the Light and Water Department update, if you would.
Sure. So I got Keith the package pretty late today, so I'm not sure if you got it to you guys. If not, I have some copies for you.
Do we have it on here?
I don't have it.
Okay, it's not on this group here.
Thank you.
So we have three town meeting warrant articles for this town meeting. One of them is really of no financial concern. It's the easements that may be necessary if we move forward with Cobb's well. We don't think we need easements. We feel we have all appropriate land needed to go down that path. We have an article in there just in case we do need to secure more easements. We have a letter right now in front of the Mass DEP that will determine that. But there's really no financial impact there, so it's not, shouldn't be too much of a concern for the town.
Is it easy access to get to the wells in there?
Yeah, that road's been done probably for 15 years. They did initial well there, I think in 2001 or so, cut a road in. And we did two more wells recently in the last couple of years. And we're doing a pump test this year on those three wells to see what they'll actually produce. And that's, if you look at our budget, which is one of the warrant articles, the budget is pretty much the same as in years past, except for the capital. And one of the big expenses.
I'm sorry, can I just go back to the easements? What if you don't get those, if you don't have those easements? If they come back and they say, no, you don't, then what do you have to do to get them?
Then we have to talk with the landowners. It's all of it's been arranged, and none of it is a financial.
Just paperwork, but you don't need to pay people for this and so on?
We have to plow a road potentially.
Pardon?
We might have to plow a road.
Oh, I see. Okay, all
Through
right.
water.
Yeah.
Okay,
Give me a little room under the ground and
We're
we'll.
pretty confident we have all the land that we
Okay,
need
all right.
for the buffer zone.
all right, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay.
So are they likely to pull Article 18, which is the easement article?
No,
Or will they leave it?
It'll stay
and ask
because we won't
for-
have that answer until
afterwards.
Until
Okay.
afterwards.
Okay.
We're going to our budget, which is towards the back of the package I gave you. As you can see, most of it is similar to last year's budget, with the exception of the capital. And then I printed out the capital page for you guys to see what those changes were. We're spending some money up at Spec Pond, our oldest treatment plant, so there's some work that we've been kind of deferring up there that costs a lot of money that needs to happen sooner than later, so we're trying to get it done this year. But also, the big nut is the $356,000 needed for that Cobb's well pumping test. So I think everyone in town knows the story that, Patriot Beverage coming to town, the town is growing, and, we're in need to find more water. Cobb's is a long-term solution for us. That's not an overnight solution. It could take 5 years to go through the permitting process, and so forth. But for the long-term needs of this town, that needs to be pursued. And that pumping test will give us the answers of what we can pull out of the ground, that the DEP will let us pull out of the ground.
Okay, so it's the state that regulates
Yep.
the town's ability to pull water out of the ground.
Correct.
So it's nobody in Littleton that's holding it up. It's the
State
state.
has to
Right,
approve
it's a
it.
15-day pump test. We bring in a third-party contractor that comes in and performs it. All that data goes to the state evaluates it, and determines what we're allowed to pull out of the ground.
So our needs, some of that, from what I understand, is based on selling water to Acton?
No,
Okay. then-
We're not
I was gonna
selling-
say, we
yeah,
were
we're not
just- I was
selling water
thinking-
to
well,
Acton?
we there's Avalon Bay Apartments are in Acton,
Yeah.
Okay.
but
And we're selling water to them?
yes. Yep, they've been a customer of ours since it got built 10 years ago.
What happens if we get to a point where we don't have enough water for our town? Or it's the
Well-
fallback plan to say, sorry, have water.
Yeah, I mean,
you
it's
gotta
our,
go
it's
to
our
Acton.
hope we don't get there.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So- So there's a few things that we're doing. Beaverbrook Treatment Plant. We can actually pull more water physically out of the ground there, but we're not permitted to. So we've already started that permitting process. That's small money, it's just a paperwork change. That gets us 200,000 gallons a day. Wickham Ave, so that article's in front of you for Wickham Ave. So on that well site, we're permitted for 600 gallons per minute a day, but we only can get 450 physically out of the ground. It's one of our older well fields. So that $7 million borrowing is to be able to get more water out of the ground, but also put a filtration plant there. All the water in town either goes to Spec Pond or Beaver Brook, with the exception of that well site. So once we get a filtration plant there, all the water in town will be filtered and high quality. We looked at first at just doing the well replacement. It was about $3.5 million. So we thought, well, if we're gonna spend this kind of money and replace the wells for quantity, we might as well go the whole way and get quality water.
What percentage of the town's water is used by Patriot Beverage? Is it a huge percentage, or it's just one more thing?
No, it's probably, 10 to 20%, given on,
Okay,
you
I'm
know,
just
depending on
curious.
what season it is. Right now, it's not that high, it's projected. I mean, they haven't really started pulling a lot of water out yet.
If
Okay,
memory
I was gonna
serves, it was 20%.
Right, yeah, I was thinking it was around
right.
that.
Back in the day, when it was very fine and craft, it was probably higher than 20% even in certain periods. But the town's grown.
Yeah, it wasn't that, maybe it was even last summer, it wasn't that long ago either, Scott was like, go ahead and water your lawns, please,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, when very fine left, it was a problem
Yeah.
the other way.
Right, yeah.
So,
Okay, things have changed, okay.
yeah.
So, okay, very good, it's good to see you're proactive, and we always like to see that, people, especially when you get 5-year plans
Right,
on
so
this
you-
stuff, it's very good.
So just to clarify, so obviously borrowing $7 million is gonna have a rate impact. We've built that into our 5-year analysis. The good thing with borrowing money for the water department is we have a debt service charge that directly correlates to that borrowing, so the money is collected through the rates. The average customer in Littleton uses about 5,000 gallons a month, 15,000 gallons a quarter. It's about $127 a quarter. With this borrowing, it goes up to $146. Over a year, it's $76 additional to the average ratepayer in Littleton. So there is a rate increase. It's not,
Substantial.
yeah, I mean, it's 15%. It's not substantial as far as the dollar amount, but,
Percentage.
and then, of course, the more you use, the more you're gonna pay, so that, you end up collecting them through your bigger users, like Patriot.
So don't water your lawn. Save a little money.
Now, is there a sliding scale on the debt service?
Not on the debt service, but on usage.
On the
there is,
water
yes.
usage?
Yep.
All right. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? So it's your recommendations?
In the past, we also looked at, there were capital funds and so on for light and water, for water department, weren't there?
The water department capital is actually built into their budget, so, and Nick had explained that the increase was based on the Cobb's well pumping test.
No, yeah.
56, so it is in there, you'll see a capital outlay for equipment and improvements, which the two together total that 841, that's Nick's detailed on the back sheet there.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for us?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so on that capital, we're able to pay for a lot of that out of our retained earnings and rates, which a couple of years ago we couldn't do
Couldn't have
that.
done that. That's what I was getting at. That was a problem not too
Right,
long
so
ago.
the only
so.
borrowing that we're doing is for the big ticket items such as Wickham.
The retained earnings, I'm hoping to have certified this week. I just got a note from DOR, they had a couple of questions on a few things, so I'll have them answered, but it'll be over $1 million, so it's built back up to a healthy level.
Safe levels, yeah, good.
Okay. And the bond, over what period of time? Do you know what Steve would bond this over? 10?
He typically borrows something like this for 20, but that's after a discussion that he'd have with Scott. over-
So you're doing it for 20 or for 10?
A lot of the times they do things like this for 20 because that's the life of this type of an asset. But he will have a conversation with Scott over that before.
What are we seeing for rates now on 20-year notes, do you know?
Not offhand.
We just did one for 10. We're,
Two,
2.4?
yeah, 2.2.
yeah, but they're going up, so.
We used to get them for less than 1%.
Yep.
So what I might recommend then, I don't know if you want to stick around, we can vote our approval or what we want to do on these articles now, so that Nick knows what we're thinking, or
Yeah, I would think.
do that, that's probably the best.
So
way.
just for your reference, they're Articles 6, 18, and 19. 6 is the operating budget to include the capital, 18 is the easements, and 19 is the borrowing.
You have to vote on the easements.
It's not
It's really not a
financial.
financial, it's not a financial article, so we don't need to take a position on that. What was
We only
19?
need to vote on the
6
18
and
and
19.
19.
6 and 19,
Yeah, 16.
okay.
Or, no,
6 and
the
19.
easement is 18, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 6 and.
So then why don't we just
This is
vote
special.
on, well, it does say in here, Keith, you put in here that Finance Committee and Board of Selectmen recommendations forthcoming for the easement. So should we take a position on this? No.
You can decide which ones.
What's the board's preference? Should we vote on it or no? If we make the decision, I'll say no. Okay.
Well, the only thing it would do is show that we support the work on the new, we're agreeing on the $356,000 spending,
Yep.
and the easement is in support of that, but that's the only tie that I can see. But I don't think it's absolutely necessary.
Okay, so then why don't we do this? Why don't we just vote on all three articles? Just make it easy and send a message. So if there isn't any more discussion, then I'll look for a motion to, I'll do it as a lump, if you guys don't mind,
Yeah.
to approve,
It's to recommend.
or recommend, rather, recommend, thank you for that. Articles 6, 18, and 19.
So moved.
A second?
They moved and seconded. All those in favor?
All right.
Those opposed? There you go.
Thank you.
7 million here.
Thanks for that
7 million
presentation,
there.
Nick. Appreciate it.
Nothing, no problem, right? Now there's none left for anybody else.
Establish the upper limit.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Have a
coming.
Safe drive home. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the sewer update. Keith, are you giving this sewer update?
No, I think that Chase scheduled that, and now
Yeah.
he's somewhere else, so.
He's meeting with the Littleton Business Association, yeah.
So,
So
We
I
start-
can fill you in to the best of my ability
Okay.
on where we're at, what we're looking for. I did have a brief phone call with Chase before this meeting. So what we're seeking at town meeting is 1.5 million borrowing. We did adhere to the advice of your committee, I believe, at one of our prior meetings with you, preferred that it would be a borrowing article. So we are looking for 1.5 million for the borrowing phase, at the initial design phase of the project. And then we anticipate coming to the fall town meeting with the construction funds for the initial phase of the project. Like I said, Chase is with the Littleton Business Association right now. There's been a lot of discussion with Littleton Business Association about the project. They did send out a survey. I don't know if you received a copy of this, but we had, out of 219 responses set out, 61 people responded. We expect to get at least half back, so we're still in the process of gathering information from local business owners and residents to gauge their interest in the project itself.
So Cindy, out of that 61, how many indicated an opt-in?
So there was 9 questions that we received the results on, and it's broken down between residential and business owners. And so, just for example, would you be interested in connecting your property to municipal sewer system? 50% of the residential property owners said yes, and then 19% said no. And then 31% said they needed more information. The business owners themselves didn't feel that it would change the structure of their business, but the property owners in the business property owners in the commercial district did, what did they say? They said, that wouldn't change their business in any way, but for landlords, would the municipal sewer system cause you to change your property in any way? 20% said yes, 51% said no, and 27% said they didn't know. So like I said, we're still gauging interest, and Chase is at a meeting with the Littleton Business Association right now, and, you know, out of 219 surveys sent out, only 61 responses received doesn't really give us a good gauge at this point. Like I said, we're still expecting to get more input and more of those responses back and get some more information as far as that goes.
Is that gonna change the way we vote on this, if the surveys if we don't receive more surveys back? Or are we just kind of going with what we've got now and we're basing our votes on what we've got, our recommendations?
Well, we'll be having more surveys come in the coming month.
Right.
And you can have a higher level of confidence at perhaps at a later date, sometime between now and town meeting. May 1st is when the Littleton Business Association is scheduling a larger meeting for affected property owners. I think they thought that they might get some folks there tonight. I'm not sure what the turnout is.
Right.
But they're scheduling a further meeting for May 1st. We hope to have more information by then on what the survey results are. And I think we could have a higher level of confidence once we get more of that information out.
Right.
You know, what bothers me about the results that we have today is that the numbers that were presented were based on a high percentage of the 200-plus properties signing up.
Right.
And I know it's a limited sample that we have here, but if it's anywhere reflective of the total, we clearly we aren't presenting the right numbers to the people that are signing up, because it was over 90% of the population was going to sign up to support the numbers that the consultant came up with. So, you know, if we're only getting 10% of the people interested in paying a $22,000 betterment, if the betterment goes up to 30 or 35,000 because we don't have as many properties in there, you're going to have even less of a percentage. So there's got to be some real serious discussion with all of these property owners before we really know what we're voting on.
Well, the system's
I
going to be
mean,
built.
Keith, am I wrong on that? I'm pretty sure I am.
No, I think that there's more information. We will have more information a month from now than we have tonight.
Right.
And I wish that I had an additional month's worth of information.
Right. No, absolutely.
By the time you're making a recommendation, and if you're hesitant about making a recommendation tonight, I'd urge you to wait for further results to come in.
Right.
No,
The
that
system-
would be my
And
recommendation.
reserve judgment.
The system's going to be built for those who need it. We're not just going to build the system to maximum capacity if we don't have that number of users that are committed to using the system.
Yeah, and part of it is we scale down the project based on what the interest is, but at the same time, we have to look at what are is it economical?
Right,
at
that's
scale
that's
down
the issue,
approach.
right.
And those numbers can be crunched once we get the additional information.
Right.
I mean, the basic tenet of the Board of Selectmen's approach to this is we're not going to do it if it's not economical.
Right.
We're not looking to create a financial burden on the town. but we think that we need to have every opportunity to put the case together and to gather information and see what there is, because it's one of the keys to carrying out the master plan's desire to revitalize the common. It's one of the principal ways that we've identified that we can grow the commercial tax base which is an important thing to do, not only so that the tax burden doesn't go to the residential properties, but so that we're seeing an additional source of new growth revenues to float the whole boat. So I think legitimately you could say the jury's out. The jury is in the process of voting right now, the jury being in the initial phase, being the property owners themselves, to learn more information about the plan that's been put together, to see if the costs that we projected work for them or not. And I guess I'd ask, give us the month to put together the best information that we can.
Right, no, I would suggest maybe if the group is getting together on May 1st, the business group, and that really seems to be a linchpin here, that we recommend that we have a joint meeting with the sewer group, finance committee, and selectmen between the 1st and the 7th, so we aren't standing up in front of town meeting in 15 minutes deciding on whether we vote for this or not. Because my sense is, at the end of the day, there's going to have to be a leap of faith vote, because it financially is going to be a little bit squishy.
There may well be, and I for one think that timetable is wholly reasonable, because no one wants to go into town meeting and have a battle on the floor over the basic assumptions of the
Absolutely.
project. And we will certainly know more, and we appreciate the effort of the Littleton Business Association stepping up to help here, because last time we discussed the sewer, there was no LBA.
Right.
There was no constituency for us to go to for this project, and I appreciate them stepping up to be a source of support for us. So the idea of convening, have the meeting on, the LBA meeting on the 1st, reconvene between, later that week, so that we're prepared for the following Monday at town meeting.
Yeah.
Fair.
Because that's, I'm speaking for myself here, but
It's impossible to give a recommendation right now that
well,
would be
yeah,
sound
I agree,
financially.
absolutely not, but if,
So,
if you're willing to get together for a real meeting between the 1st and the 7th, and actually discuss this thing,
Really appreciate just a couple of days, like a Wednesday or the 2nd, or Thursday the 3rd,
Yeah.
to meet, certainly.
It may also be a little extra impetus for people that think, well, I'll just decide later, I'm gonna wait, or blah, blah, okay, I need to put my vote in. I mean, it's not, obviously not writing a check, but also may help that a little bit, so
Right,
I agree, that's a good idea.
Yep, I
and
think
if we
so.
can't get to a point where we can support it in May, maybe it's September or October fall meeting that it gets pushed out to or something, if they just can't get everything together. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we can look at that. We haven't identified what the fallback strategy is. We have, though, and I think to the selectmen's credit, as Cindy said, they took your advice and on the matter of how this should be funded, and are going for
two-thirds,
borrowing,
right? Yep.
two-thirds vote, $1.5 million. And in part, it's that, yes, it raises the bar for this vote, but it also, should we get a two-thirds vote, then we can go with a little more confidence, a lot more confidence, to
The
design
town's
a
behind you,
system for
yeah.
which we'll have to pay, for which the construction costs would be considerably more.
Right.
Yeah, so that's helpful strategic advice in the long run.
You know what else would be helpful, and I don't know if there's been any study done on this, is what the assessed values of these commercial properties are going to be with the sewer in place, and what it does for us from a tax. Has any of the analysis been done?
No, it has not. We've discussed that, frankly, one of the analyses that would be done is perhaps too speculative of what sort of additional new growth would you see, what decisions would individual property owners make if they haven't made them.
I think
That-
aside
There's
of
a generic answer that maybe Kathy can provide to Bonnie, If, by what factor does a value go up if a property is hooked up to a sewer as opposed to a...
And I'd caution
Certainly,
that
the resale value of the property goes up.
Well, sure, it certainly does,
the
but I'm just
value
saying
goes
that
up
we're
because
taxing.
the sewer line goes by it, that's not new growth.
Correct.
But if they
No,
make,
but
but
value.
the value will shift and it will relieve the residential parcels if it's going by a commercial, route.
Correct.
But if, because of that sewer going by, they then make improvements and expand their footprint or go up and do other things, that would be considered new growth.
New growth.
Yeah, see,
So-
some of this is so speculative that, we're talking about it could be years before a business moves out, like a bank. And now a business owner that needs the sewerage would want to move in. So regardless, I think even a month from now, when we have to make a vote on this, it's not gonna be a very clear picture. There's still gonna be.
No, but you'll have a bit, if it's still.
Right, it'll
I forget
definitely
the-
be a better phase.
If
It'll
it's
be a
still
better
the,
picture.
Yeah,
these
because-
percentages,
yeah.
I think there's one vote. If the percentages of acceptance are significantly different, then, that maybe you think differently about
Yeah.
it. But-
So if a landlord opts to tie into the sewer and pays the $22,000 betterment, is he reassessed because of the value of his property and he has to pay more taxes?
It could be. We do a valuation assessment adjustment every year. We look at neighborhood factors, we look at, properties that have improved. But if it's improved purely just based on the fact that the sewer went by and they didn't make any changes, then that's not new growth. It's a valuation change. So it will,
Increase the
say
value.
it's commercial, the commercial value goes up, the levy's the same, so the part that the residential piece pays goes down. But it's not new growth, it's just a shift. If that landlord then says, well, I'm gonna put another addition on and
Right,
add another unit, that would be new growth.
Okay.
There still could be a net benefit from this, even though it's not new growth,
Right,
which
absolutely.
is the key
And
point. I mean,
the
that's key
very
to
fine
understand.
parcel was a very big aspect of that. I mean, it went from, just by becoming occupied, went from an $8 million value to a $12 million value. Not new growth, just a shift.
Just a shift.
So it provides relief.
Yeah. Yeah, so there could be some, I won't say hidden value here, but it could be some
Provides relief, absolutely.
relief to the
So
taxpayers.
the Board of Selectmen is working hard on this, the sewer team, which has just been expanded to include the Light and Water Commissioners and Department, which we've been trying to get their attention for a while, and I'm glad we got it. And so we will have a lot more information in the coming month.
So, Fred, I like your recommendation. Does everybody else agree with that, or anybody have a different thought? So then why don't we do that? Why don't we table our recommendation until, well, we'll have to make it when we meet for the joint meeting on whether it's the second or the third of
Right.
May. So we'll meet with you folks whenever you set that date. And hopefully we have some more knowledge or more information so we make a
We all hope
knowledgeable
May is the
decision.
first.
May 1st is a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday. May 1st is a Tuesday, so we'd have to meet either Wednesday or Thursday, I
So-
think. Don't catch me on the weekend.
Thursday
Third?
night work for people, or?
I'm out that whole week, so I won't be.
That's your excuse. Thursday would work better for me than Wednesday. Yeah.
And for me, because that's.
Yeah, Thursday works better for me too.
Okay, so.
All right, so can we recommend that there's a joint meeting called for
Yes,
the,
please do. Yeah.
Yeah.
On Thursday.
for
For Thursday,
Thursday,
Third.
May 3rd,
Okay,
with the agenda item of the sewer capital,
okay.
okay?
That's great.
And I guess we can call it?
Sure,
Or do
yeah.
you
You
want
want us
to
to
call it?
call it?
Sure.
Will we get more participation
Well,
if
we'll have
you
a
call
joint
it?
meeting. Yeah, let's have a joint meeting, and we will have the selectmen, FinCom, and sewer team.
Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna call the meeting then, and you guys will join us from the audience?
Yes,
Or do you
maybe
want the
we'll-
table?
we
Or
might
do you
need-
want the
we-
table?
Maybe we need a bigger boat.
I'm okay with it either way.
Yeah, we all
don't
done
matter.
it,
Either way.
Yeah,
We
maybe
can-
Let's
we'll-
put
the
it
we'll,
in.
fire station conference room.
Yeah, they've got the cameras in it.
Okay, so,
Yeah, cameras will be.
Yeah, that's a
So
nice
doing a
room.
fire station
That'd
then?
be good.
Yeah, we
Oh,
should.
that'd be a
That's
great
nice-
idea.
Yeah, fire station, and
Room.
we'll form a circle
well, yeah.
with the tables.
We can have a fire in the middle, and we have people that can put it out.
So fire station, 7
Yeah,
o'clock
the top
on
part might be to
Thursday
book
the
that
3rd,
one.
I'm gonna send it
5:03.
Yeah, we better try to book
Okay.
that one right away.
Okay. All right, we'll do that. I think that's good. Do we need to make a motion on that? No, we don't. Or do we?
I think it would be helpful.
Okay.
I don't know, if we want to have it televised, I don't know that the TV is up and running over there yet.
He was working on it this week.
Cable-
I know they're
Yeah,
working on it this
yeah.
week, but
I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah, they were,
Yeah,
they were.
assuming that,
Well,
how
we
about
can say it's-
assuming that TV is,
That's a good point.
the live TV coverage is.
because for this, we really need to have live TV
Yes.
coverage, so.
Yeah,
I agree with
we'll
you.
have a call-in show.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion that we table the vote on the $1.5 million borrowing for sewers until after we have a discussion at a joint meeting on May 3rd, Thursday evening, on a joint meeting with the FinCom selectmen and sewer sub-working group.
Okay, it's great.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you.
You
Perfect.
okay with
Thanks for
that?
the updates.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Who could oppose a fair proposal like that?
Okay, all right, let's go back to the warrant articles, and, well, this updated packet here,
Yes.
Tony, thank you, and let's
Latest and greatest.
go right through this. Is there any updates from the last time that have been made that we need to
No,
point
basically, I
out?
just dropped in the numbers to show the impacts, on page,
We're doing the financial reports.
11, let's see, 12. So this is kind of a page that was developed a few years ago to show the financial impacts of each of the warrant articles that represent spending. So we calculated, the increases based on the levy that we have estimated. We're looking at just under a 3% increase, 2.94% from the current. And you can see that the average tax bill for a residential property assessed at $422,839 would increase by $222.94, or the 2.94% that I referenced, increasing from 76.79 in this fiscal year to 77.99.94 in 19. And again, that's on page 12, so that's
Yep.
kind of a neat thing.
Page 12.
One thing that
Summary.
what I did like, and I called it out a little bit differently this year, is on ATM 5, where we're using the debt exclusion stabilization fund to offset the debt service for the excluded debt.
Oh, he
I
has a good
showed the savings, kind of, and again, it's based on
$99,
that average property value of 422,000. But rather than kind of lumping it all in Article 4, I think it's kind of nice to see the actual,
Call it out.
yeah,
Hopefully we don't get a hold on it.
I hope not.
Thanks, Eddie.
If they,
Thank you, good night.
Good
they don't
night.
approve it,
Thanks,
then the
Eddie.
bill's gonna go up by $100, so.
You never know.
So what do we need votes on? So
Okay,
we're-
So, yeah, let's go through these.
I don't have any
numbers.
Article 1 bills of prior year at this time, so no action there. I don't have any line item transfers at this point.
Okay,
Article 3 is the appropriation of bond anticipated note premium. So this is money that we had left over from actually the sale of a bond dated March 29th for the fire station that we need, I'm sorry, it was money left over from November, where we,
It's a change in the law that says whenever we have amounts left over, we have to have town meeting vote to do something with them. So this article is only $6,000, but get used to seeing articles like this when we have to clean up after bond issue. We have to actually then vote to apply the funds to something, and so we're proposing to
yeah, we used to be
apply-
able to just close it to the general fund if it was, immaterial, and now they're saying no, not for
do it that
anything.
way.
Okay, so what are we doing with our $6,000?
So we're using it to offset the borrowing for the fire station project and Alumni Field. So we're just taking that $1,500 and reducing the amount that we're gonna place. So
So alumni gets cheaper and cheaper.
it does.
All right.
See, Fred? See, Fred's gonna get.
Hey, all I know is they were playing out
In the
there
long
today
run,
in the
it'll pay
pouring
for
rain,
itself.
and
Oh, wow.
that's something we haven't seen in the history of Littleton.
Yeah, totally.
So,
playing it this early in the season,
All the money
too.
we're saving on Tide. Lawns aren't dirty
On a
anymore.
rainy day, Fred can see the sunshine. So.
There you go.
That's less water we have to treat.
Hey,
Oh, boy. For some reason, I feel like there's a real big zing in that.
all right.
So, Brian, does this have to be applied to other capital then, or could we, you just has to vote on something? You could vote to just put it back in the general fund?
No,
You can't?
you have to use it for
Have
a
to use it for
capital
capital,
project of
okay.
the same,
Okay,
Purpose
That's
for
what
which
it's
the
purpose.
grant, the borrowing could have been used.
yeah.
I see, okay.
All right, so,
But just,
go ahead, Fred.
you know, maybe if this was a whole lot of money, $6,000 really doesn't matter, but if it was a whole, maybe a couple $100,000, for some reason, it was a big number, could we put it away for the acquisition of another field?
For future capital?
You know, for,
Future
you know,
capital,
for.
or you have to
Stabilization.
use
You
it?
can't
Capital
appropriate,
stabilization?
I have to reserve it, so
Right,
it
right,
has
that's
to
what
go
I'm
into a
saying.
separate account. You couldn't put it into capital stabilization or debt exclusion stabilization.
could put
You-
it-
It would stay in that account until you came up with another purpose that would meet the criteria that it was borrowed for originally.
Okay,
So,
so, but
So
in
if
this,
you did have something like
Yes.
like a field,
we borrowed for a
construction
field, so we're
project for
doing a
which you
field.
needed that kind of money you
So
could
you
transfer.
could do that just for
It's gotta be
future
like a
reference,
light
not,
project.
okay.
yeah. Yeah, this is a small amount,
So
so.
what if there wasn't something out there? What if it was the original one was a one-time thing? Anyway, never mind.
That article.
There's always.
There's always something, or you get more creative, I get it.
What if, what if, what
Yeah,
if?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Appropriation of the bond.
Okay, you want me to motion?
Yeah, why don't we,
Want to just tick them off as we go?
why don't we just tick them off as we go, unless there's something that needs to be discussed, then we'll just go through these one, as we talk about them. There's some discussion, let's discuss it. If there isn't, kind of like what the town moderator does, when, just kind of goes
So
through.
just keep going through right
Just
now?
keep going, and if there's something we need to talk about, let's talk about it.
Yes, so
Are you guys okay with that?
Okay,
You
so
okay? Okay. Just
in
wanna-
the absence of a no, it's a yes.
Well, no, then we'll just vote them all at once, unless you want to have a no discussion.
But to send you to the training, because that's not what it means.
Yes means no. No means yes. Trickery, trickery.
Okay, so
All right,
STM, so
sorry.
special town meeting Article 4 is to put money into the stabilization fund. We're putting $622,146 from free cash into the stabilization fund, which we will then take out in a subsequent article for the creation of the fire department injured on duty account and the CPC blended funds. So this puts it in, the following articles take it out.
And doing it this way complies with our financial policy. I don't know, when's the last time you guys met? Was it since we got the
Yeah.
AAA?
Yeah, the AAA bond, yes.
So-
Oh, yeah, of course we did.
It was just, but it was so important in our
Audit.
call with the Standard & Poor's to be able to explain what we were doing with the fund balances, because they saw a reduction overall balances, but because it was part of a plan, because all of the money, nothing was spent in violation of the financial policy. So in this case, we're very careful that since we've already maxed out the amount that you can just transfer from free cash straight away, that you move it first into a stabilization fund, and then you move it out on a two-thirds vote for approved purposes.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing here.
Article 5 takes that money out, as I had referenced before, in the amount of $272,146, along with the other funds referenced to meet the full 2% match that we can appropriate into the CPC funds. We have a surcharge of 1%. We can appropriate funds up to 2%. And doing this gets us qualified for the higher state match. So we're using the free cash and the other cell tower and mitigation funds that you have referenced here.
We've been using the cell tower funds for a while for that, haven't we?
Yes, yep. So no changes there. Article 6, again referenced before, establishes that special injury leave indemnity fund for police firefighter compensation. So we're putting $350,000 into this. This would be something that I would like to see kind of going forward, that we maintain a certain balance in it, because it's kind of a reserve against these types of expenses, so.
Do we need a policy to maintain a minimum balance? I mean, is that something?
It's not
that-
something in our policies now,
No,
but I'd
I'm
like to.
saying, so is that something that going forward, we should reconvene that august
Yes.
group of do-nothings and get them to do something?
I think it would be a good idea to have an amount, a threshold set.
Okay. Well, if you and Steve want to put a policy recommendation together, maybe
Okay.
we should look at
We need to convene the whole group though, right?
No, not yet, no, but-
Schools have to
Yeah.
be part of that too for
that.
policy.
It's good to
changes.
have at least a straw man of a policy written by Steve and Bonnie, and then discuss it when that smaller group.
Okay.
Article 7 is home rule petition, but we don't have all of that language drafted as of yet.
Is it a
We have
financial,
we
is
have
it a
motion
financial?
that The selectmen will be voting. The idea behind the home rule petition is that a long time ago, in a collective bargaining agreement with the fire union, which dates back before Bonnie, me, probably before anyone who's around, there was language in the contract which indicated that an injured on duty firefighters' expenses would be paid, indefinitely.
By the time.
And by the town. And that as a legal matter, the town is not able to pay those expenses upon retirement, after the retirement of the person. So the way to achieve the result that we'd committed to long ago in the collective bargaining agreement is to seek special state legislation to do so. So the benefit that the town long ago committed itself to requires legal authority in order for us to pay it out. So we're seeking to get that legal authority.
Is that a one-for-one type situation, or is this something you would have to go back to legislate?
We'd have to do it
For each occurrence.
any time that we had an employee who was in a situation, and that frankly is a stop. Allows us to exercise some amount of judgment on the validity of the case, as we certainly do in this case.
So that if we're paying that employee, does that count towards their pension as well? While they're out? Or is it under, like long-term disability?
I believe it's still pensionable because it's considered regular
Right
compensation.
now,
but
the
I need to-
employee is getting paid regular compensation.
It's regular compensation.
Regular compensation. That's what chapter 41, section 111F provides to injured on duty police and firefighters. They get their regular compensation.
So,
And we pay for their medical bills.
so we're doing it today. We're
doing it
paying the
today.
bills as they come in.
We're doing it
So-
today, and if there comes a time when the employee is retired, that our ability to continue to do it would require additional legislative authorization.
Okay, so this would be extending it beyond when they retire. We're doing it, we're paying them today. We're paying his bills today, whatever they are. And this legislation is authorizing us to, I thought I heard pay his bills and pay his salary, which we're doing that today, so what?
Now, if the employee retires, then the medical component is picked up by the insurance.
Right,
To whatever the limits are under that insurance.
Right.
Okay? So if there are expenses beyond that as a result of the injury on duty, what we agreed to is the town would pay those expenses beyond whatever the
Beyond the
insurance is.
insurance, okay.
We can't do that
But that-
unless we
We can't
have.
legally, even though the town has signed a collective bargaining agreement that says we'll do that, we don't have the legal authority to do it.
beyond
And so we're seeking to
retirement.
Right.
That's
to
the
make
issue,
whole
okay.
Yes.
I
Whatever
understand.
agreements were made by those that signed the contracts along.
So as of today, there's no benefit in that individual
To retire.
retiring
No.
at any point.
Why would you retire?
That's right.
No, and
Just keep
and the
getting
benefit
paid full
frankly
salary.
accrues to the town, would accrue to the town when we can shift, when we're not shifting what that person gets and benefits, it does shift how we pay for it
Yeah.
to a way that it is better for the town.
Okay.
So we're looking to move towards that, to be able to have the ability to move and to find other funding sources.
To meet the
insurance and so
obligations.
forth.
So there's a financial flexibility benefit to the town having this home rule petition. Is the real,
Yes.
The real,
So-
okay.
I understand.
So chapter, even if that legislation passes, what is the impetus to the individual to retire? Is there any?
After 20 years, don't they?
Would you,
Money's the same,
no, money's more.
or
if you-
more because you keep working and you keep putting more into the
Well,
retirement.
at some point, if he's unable to ever come back to work, he'll be medically retired.
Correct.
Because the doctors will say he can never go back to work, so,
Okay.
yeah, he has to retire.
The decisions are not, over time, the decisions are not only one that the employee makes, but the employer is
Okay.
bound to weigh in as well.
So this is more of a cooperative.
Right.
At
So we're
some
looking
point,
at-
we'll
we're
ask.
looking ahead to the point at which that decision is made, that we want to have the mechanism by which we can make sure that the individual continues to get all the benefits that he's entitled to.
Understood, thanks.
Yeah, I would just think that, would want to stay on the payroll as
Well,
long as it could.
you
You're
can,
gonna make
Crystal-
more until you're gonna make more than you would.
If he's
with
getting
your
full
pension.
compensation now, he's paying full taxes on that.
Right.
He shifts
That's
to
a good
retirement,
point. That's a good
then
point.
retirement, certain benefits are not taxable.
Correct.
So it's a tax benefit to him. He can probably do it and make $1, or not lose but $1, one way or the other.
So
That's
chapter,
why we have you old guys on the
Yeah.
board.
And we need guys who could tell us what kind
We
of
know that
retirement's
stuff.
all about.
We know that retirement stuff.
it's back when $1 was $1.
Yeah, hot calling the kettle
1967.
black, I would say.
so chapter 41, 111F, is this just a coincidence that it was 2016, this Modernization Act came into play, and we had an incident within our own town?
The incident was in 17.
Right, but I'm saying
Yeah, it is.
it's weird how
It is.
that act happened in 2016 and we had an
Well,
incident.
we've always had 111F. 111F
Okay.
has always been in.
So this is just the Modernization
Yeah,
Act?
Yes.
the injured on duty clause has been there.
Okay, that's what that's,
Even, that goes back.
Even before Fred's time.
yeah, okay.
I would imagine that
It's on a
was
stone
in
tablet
place
somewhere.
around World War II.
We paid in wampum.
But being allowed to create a separate fund.
Yeah, that's
to
where I was-
mitigate, that's new. That came up in 2016.
All right, so we do need to take a position on this because it is financial.
So,
I don't know what towns are doing before
That's the
that.
end of the special. Should we vote the special?
Yeah, why don't we vote the special?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I'll look for a motion for that unless there's any more discussion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the FinCom votes to support Article 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the May 7th, 2018 special town meeting.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good, but you didn't get Steve's vote on it.
Let
Stepped out.
Steve vote by himself when he comes back.
You can vote after the fact. Okay. Let's move on to the annual.
It's on
town-
page 18.
Page 18, yeah. I'm right there with you.
Article 3 is the establishment of the revolving account limits. There are no changes from last year in these accounts. It's the same accounts and the same dollar thresholds.
The law changed, requiring us to adopt a bylaw to establish each of the revolving funds, so these were established last year. The one, and then, even though you did that, you still have to go back every year and establish the
Limits.
annual expenditure limitations on those revolving funds. If we ever wanted to add a revolving fund, we'd have to amend the bylaws
I
again.
don't know why that was.
It seemed like if they thought they were doing us a favor, it seems like a lot more lifting,
Yeah,
but
but essentially, there are no changes to these revolving accounts as they stand today.
There isn't one for athletic fees. i.e.,
No,
how is it?
Town council ruled that any fees collected from the use of the alumni field facility can be treated as far as the school use fees are now, which is separately, it doesn't need a revolving fund authorization, they already have that authority. I am creating a separate use fee account for them in the following year so that we can track alumni separately, but they already have the authority under the statutes that the school
Okay.
department is
So
authorized.
I just want to make
Yep.
sure we didn't need.
We looked at that
We
thoroughly.
didn't need a revolving.
There'll be a separate line item that money will go.
Yes,
Okay,
just so we
that's
can
fine.
track it.
Yeah, good.
Good, just so we didn't miss it. Okay.
So Article 4 is the operating budget. The operating budget, again, it's in balance with the full spending plan. Within this article, there's a couple of highlights. It is, let's see, it's an increase of $882,741, or 11% on the town department side. The reason that increase it seems high is because it's the first full year impact of hiring the 6 paramedics last year, the full-time IT person that was hired mid-year, and it's also got the mid-year hiring for next year of the facilities director. So, yes, it seems high, but the only incremental staffing increase is the, half FTE position for the facilities.
And where do we end up with facilities? Is it half of a year, or is it
It's
a
hired
quarter of a year?
full-time, half-year,
It's
yes.
just a half year.
Half year.
January.
The-
January.
Okay, so that was different than what we had talked about originally.
Based on the last meeting, yes, it
I'm
is.
sorry, I
We
missed
talked
that,
about at the
yeah.
last meeting, that we're taking it out of, still public buildings, but a different account. So we're able to maintain that.
The one other thing, Bonnie, that I want the board to be aware, in the cable studio, since we put our budget in way back in November, we've determined that we would like to fill an existing part-time position in the cable studio. We've sent the job description to the personnel board. It's the same job description, just different supervisor. And it's been reviewed, and the grade 5 has been established as the pay grade.
Reviewed that last week.
Does it change anything in the,
It changes our budget, but it doesn't change anything the town is paying, because we pay the full freight for it.
Yeah, so if you look under Department 197 Cable Studio, you'll see personal service go up, and that incorporates the salary
Yeah,
changes.
right.
But the transfer in from cable access fees also went up for the corresponding amount. So,
Well,
and
paying
it
more
covers.
So
cable.
we're getting money not only from the PEG funds, but also
But
from
from-
Boxborough.
Yeah, from the IMA with Foxborough, so.
And that's referenced in there too. So there's no impact to the
Yeah,
the
we-
levy.
It's just, the town is just, we're just doing so much more with all the boards that we're doing. And of course, Keith keeps giving us more stuff all the time to do, so.
Well, the town just keeps doing that many things that people want to watch.
There you
Yeah,
go, there you go.
absolutely.
Anyway, I wanted to explain that to you before you vote Article 4 to speed.
thank you.
Yep, but those types of things do increase the operating budget. It might be fully offset, but when you're looking at expenditures, it's 11% increase, but, some of that's offset by that. Next year, hopefully when we get the recognition of the ALS revenues, some of the fire increase will be offset that we've absorbed this year. We knew this year was going to be kind of our leap of
How are
faith
those
year.
revenues looking as?
Not
for-
yet, we haven't seen any,
yet, not yet.
nothing yet. Next year.
Okay.
They're stable, which is good. I mean, if I saw a dip right now, I'd be agita. School appropriation increases by the 898,300, or 4.76%. This was the amount that was agreed upon with that additional 25,000 that we had at the last joint meeting. It also includes $1,788,560 from the school revolving accounts, which includes circuit breaker and school choice and other revolving accounts that they have. And that was the number based on the school committee's presentation to me.
And any more rumblings from the state on, incremental funds available for,
Nothing.
it's just,
Yep, it's flat still.
okay, okay.
Let's see, and employee, I just referenced, I'm sorry, on the school department's increase, that it covered their contractually obligated wage increases at $604,000, as well as $167,000 in special ed increases and $120,000 in transportation cost increases.
I'd like to talk about snow and ice for a second. 'Cause if I recall, I saw an email that said there was gonna be a little left over for snow and ice from this year.
Maybe.
Or
I don't know, it
not
just
all
snowed
this
this
year.
week, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I'm wondering if we're appropriating the right amount in there. I know we've always kind of had that number. It's been there for quite a long time.
For snow and ice?
For snow and ice. It hasn't changed over the years.
No, we have a two-part budget combination for snow and ice. We appropriate $200,000 in the operating
Right,
budget, and
this
I
year.
reserve $450,000 as a deficit.
Correct.
So we have $650,000.
But have we changed that, any of
We
those
hit it
numbers?
once in 2014, and I was like, oh my God, this is the highest we've ever seen it. So it's a good number to maintain.
It is, okay.
We keep it at the high level that we think we would max out at.
Worst case
So
scenario
typically,
type.
we have some that we can appropriate in the fall for capital-like things, but we don't really true that up until after we close the books.
And we have in the past discussed if there was money left over in snow and ice, roll it into the highway repair budget for that year, just to give them, if it's an extra $100,000, he can patch $100,000 worth more potholes, I don't know, rather than spending it on other stuff, but we never really came to
I think the
agreement
policy
on
group,
that.
you get them to
What-
do
Yeah.
whether it's something you want to do or not.
There are so many
like
that
actually.
just want to use that money.
I
That
know,
money's been
but
used
that's-
for everything.
Used for
That's-
all sorts of things.
Right.
Track and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, well, but if you've driven on the roads lately,
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that, sir.
So under employee retiree benefits, for both the towns and the schools, the increase is just over $1.3 million. It's 16.30%. I remember we talked at the last meeting that the increase for employee benefits was less than we had programmed because we got a 0% rate increase on health insurance. But under the financial policies, as we're spending down some of the free cash for other projects, I had to put $700,000 into OPEB as part of this operating budget. So I added that in there and it jacked up the increase, but it's in
Okay.
total compliance with the policies. It's a good thing, it's a great
Yep.
thing to do, but that's, it's what kicks the increase up.
so are the policies there.
So with these numbers in place, there are no additional staffing or hours increases other than the ones that we referenced. So the union contracts, whatever it gets negotiated in the end for a percentage increase, will be held in a different article, but any steps and, lane shifts or anything are included in here. And the union ones will be included in a separate article. The town meeting bylaw employees are all included in Article 4. So any adjustments for them are in Article 4.
Right. Our authority to pay them the higher rates is in the personnel article. But we always put for the non-union, but we always put the money in the operating budget.
So if the bylaw increases do not pass, then I can only pay the hourly rates and the hours that are approved already. So there'd be a surplus in each budget that we'd have to deal with. Hopefully that won't happen. So with that, you can see each department line item. I would like to call out on page 22 to 23. I did break out park maintenance. So you can see, or field maintenance. You can see the field maintenance accounts. What I did is I pulled it out of highway for the past 2 years to try and show the comparison year to year. So I pulled out the expenses from 17 and 18 that are currently budgeted in highway, pulled them down into field maintenance, and then moved them out for 19 with the increases and changes. So the change you'll see in the expenses going from 13 to 37,000 is because I'm taking the 24,000 that's in the recreation fund where they collect it and pulling it into the general fund. So it's netting out,
I
to
see it,
be the
nets,
same.
yeah,
And you
yeah.
can see it all in one area. So kind of going forward, this is how we'll track it. So when somebody says, how much do we spend on field maintenance, we can show the town's expenses.
Does this include the money that the schools spend on watering the fields?
No. That money was appropriated in the school department budget,
And okay. All right, so this is really
the town.
not what our town is spending on field maintenance. This is what
The non-school
Our
the
department.
expense.
It's what
non-school
the-
department.
Right, what the general
Right,
government is spending.
okay, so, okay.
I know we had some concern about that when, the long drawn-out MOU. We wanted to see that linked together somehow, so
Right,
it was a
just so-
true picture. So now every year, we're gonna have to continually kind of zing, I guess, the schools, just to see how much is your budget, how much is the budget for?
Well, it became a big issue, and
Right.
I thought we were gonna have some transparency on it, and once again, we don't, so it's not good, but it is what it is. So we can honestly say that this is what the town is spending on the fields other than school property.
Water, right?
Anything that the school pays.
Yeah.
So we're not doing anything on the school properties with this
No.
maintenance?
We-
We're mowing the grass.
Yeah, we are absolutely doing things on school
We're
properties
just,
with
we're
this.
just not.
I don't know what the
watering.
school is
We don't know
spending
what the schools pay.
I see.
out of their.
Yeah, I don't think
But
this,
they're responsible for the watering piece of it, right?
Yeah, at the high school, they have the watering there,
So
and
is
they have.
there any, wasn't there an issue a while back where they kind of turned the water off to save a little money?
yeah, what I mean is, I don't think this is over yet. I think we still have ways to go. I just think with the new field now, I think we really have to relook this and try to pull that money into one place still. I still think it needs to end up in one spot. I know it's a
Well,
battle down the road.
at least from a
but-
reporting standpoint.
Right.
I mean, people had their backs up a couple of years ago at town meeting and
Right.
wanted to know what we were spending. I mean, I can remember Brian standing up and trying to throw another $100,000 in there. And, he was, Tim told him he couldn't do it at that point. But, they were pretty womped up about it, and we still aren't answering the question, I think, so. But, all right, okay, so this is what it is.
Yep. So those are the highlights. You can see that, I would point out that the park maintenance personal services does go up from like 17 to 18, the 108 to 153. We hired somebody for full-time for 18, so that's why the jump was there. And then that was like mid-year, or not fully into the year. So it's annualized for 19.
Folks, any discussion, any comments? Move on to Article 5 then.
Okay.
It's 5, yeah, 5,
I'm just making a note here. Article 5 is the use of that debt exclusion stabilization fund. So, again, if Article 5 does not pass, the tax bills will go up $100 more than what I've shown in the front page, but,
And
That's a must vote.
yes.
Let's explain the article.
Yes,
That's a must vote.
Right.
yes.
Vote yourself $100.
This one is a 2/3 vote because it's coming out of the stabilization fund, so.
Okay,
Article 6 is the water enterprise fund budget, which Nick
Voted.
went over and reviewed. Article 7 is the recreation enterprise fund budget. I would point out that the recreation fund balance is going up over $300,000 this year, so I just want to point out Alicia's done a great job in kind of managing their programs and trying to, cut things back. They've stopped the drain on the fund balance that she kind of inherited, and have slowly started to build their reserves up. So she's doing, I would say she's doing a really good job. You can see the transfer in from the general fund. That funds just the benefits for the director and the assistant director and their salaries. So that's kind of what we've leveled off there. They are using a little bit of their enterprise available funds or their free cash to kind of just offset their reserve fund. So if they don't spend anything out of the reserve, it just increases their fund balance beyond that.
Yeah, if I recall, when I was on the rec commission, it seemed like those revolving funds were kind of all over the place, depending on the time of the year, the programs, how much money was collected up front, then when they spent it to pay for the program. So it's kind of a little bit of a moving target.
It is.
So this has, you've identified enough, or at least Alicia's identified enough here where it's kind of
Yes,
to the point where it's stable.
Yep, she's done a great job.
Okay, good. Glad to hear that.
Oh, well, it's whiny.
And you can see the 24,000 for field maintenance. So that says, transfer to general fund for field maintenance. Because we know that we'll have at least that. And then as we go forward, we'll get better at that.
Okay, good.
So is it the goal then to pull more out from Park and Rec for field maintenance and slide it over? Is that kind of?
Well, next year, if we realize they took more in,
Yeah.
we can adjust the field maintenance transfer next year to be higher. But as the fund balance builds up, a good point is if there are other projects like the bathhouse that comes up, they can use their fund balance to augment these types of capital projects. You really don't want to use it for operating, but it's good for capital, so.
Okay.
Article 8 is capital. There are no changes in this item since your last meeting. And you can see on page 33, the two motions. So 33 pulls motion 1 to the items that are done by raise and appropriate cash or transfer from free cash, which are all of them, with the exception of sewer. So the sewer article is in motion 2, because it requires a 2/3 borrowing. And that's the one for the $1.5 million.
I'm sorry, what page is it again?
33?
So the first motion is everything but the sewer.
Okay.
And motion 2 is the sewer.
So on this article then, at this point, we would be looking at motion 1
Correct.
to take a position on tonight. Comments, thoughts on this article? Do we need, anything we need to look at, discuss, debate?
Quickly scan it.
Yeah.
Good look at it.
Boring.
Yeah. There haven't been any changes since your last.
We're trusting you, Bob.
I
Just out of curiosity, Keith, any update on Mill Pond? I mean, is it, we just keep coming up with a little more money and a little more money. Is it gonna happen, or?
We'll know more soon. There's been discussion. It's one of the issues that Corey Godfrey is dealing with as advisor to the Clean Lakes Committee, is looking at this disposal sites with the dredge fill. And there are some discussions with abutting and neighboring property owners. And we've got a meeting scheduled next week or so, which might point to a breakthrough on that.
Okay.
Do you want to go to Article 9, or are you?
Guys, done skimming through this?
Oh, sorry.
Questions, comments, move on? That's a big article. Good?
Talked about most of it before, yeah.
Yeah, you good? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll just make a note on that. When we make our recommendation, we're making it for motion 1 only.
And we'll hold on.
We'll
motion
hold
two.
on motion 2 until
Yep.
May. Okay. All right, Article 9, yeah, thanks, Bonnie.
Okay, Article 9 is the CPC operating budget. So this is going to be a 2/3 vote requirement.
It's 2/3 for
The-
the last item, which is a land
That's right.
item
It's
for
that piece of property on
the
Robinson Road.
Baker Homestead. The Community Preservation Committee is meeting again tomorrow night. I'm not sure if they, I know they need to have further discussions about their recommendation. I'm not sure if they will alter their recommendation on that, but the concerns have been expressed that if the town were to purchase the property at 12 Robinson Road for $250,000, it would be unfortunate if we had to immediately mothball it because there's not any other money coming in from elsewhere
For septic
to
or,
put in a septic
yeah,
system
anything else
and
that
a heating
needs
system and
foundation
everything
or-
else. And that there really needs to be a very well thought out business plan of what do we do with it? Do we buy it? If the town buys it with CPA funds, we would have to put a deed restriction on it for historic preservation, which automatically limits what the next owner can do with the property. And I think that the selectmen have not taken a position on this yet. They're going to be meeting with the Community Preservation Committee on Monday night in a joint meeting. CPC's meeting tomorrow night to prepare for that. And I couldn't predict what the ultimate outcome might be. But
Yeah, I have some concerns with that because, as you stated, there are additional funds required to bring it up to some kind of use.
right.
And in the interim, it becomes a liability and it takes it off the tax roll. I don't know if that's, I just have a concern about this.
well, I mean, if you're just looking at it as a piece of property, it's worth well over that cost if we didn't even have the facility on it or the house on it. But that's not why we're buying it, right? We're buying it to,
Right.
I would hope to renovate this.
Well,
From what I've heard, I mean, I haven't got the whole story, but
Well, the
usage of the
group,
barn.
the two women that came in and made the presentation
Yeah.
here, I mean, they're two energetic people,
Yeah.
and they have a great vision, but the concern that we discussed in CPC before we voted was, they certainly have good intentions, but raising money is not easy. And right out of the chutes, a septic system and a heating system has got to be $30,000. I mean, in that range.
the septic.
Well, there you go. Yeah, for $30,000. So,
Ongoing maintenance as well.
so just to be able to, flush the toilets and
yeah, that's
heat the building, it's, 30 plus $30,000 that they'd have to raise. And then to do any renovation to the property to make it usable for historic purposes that they were discussing, or the art thing they were discussing, or whatever, it is just more money. So while I applaud their enthusiasm, I think they have to come back with some kind of commitment in their hand that says they've got some money before the selectmen certainly would vote for it.
Do you have a sense of where the CPC stands on it?
I don't. I know that the Historical Commission voted to support it. CPC voted to support it, because if you just go down the list of questions that you ask, yep, it ticks them all off. But what is a little bit unsettling is the ongoing financial
Yeah, what's the
burden.
financial plan for this?
And that shifts out of CPC and onto the selectmen, i.e.,
Right.
right here.
Yeah, you cannot
And
use
that's-
community preservation funds to pay for operating costs, for ongoing
Right.
So
costs. So this
that really,
structure, if the town bought it, would be
As is.
competing for the limited funds that all the existing facilities that we
Right.
have do, which,
I can't see the town purchasing a piece of property that we hadn't identified a use for the town. That's,
well, the argument from,
It's historical. It's
from
a
the
historical
historical
piece.
side
Yeah,
is,
I definitely see
it's
that.
probably the oldest documented property in town. at 1637, still standing. So if a developer buys it, it's gone,
torn, yeah, it's-
likely gone. So, you know, the Historical Society is saying, geez, there must be some way, and this outside group is trying to, you know, come in on the bottom of the ninth inning and sort of whomp a plan together that might work or might not, with the town having the ultimate liability. And that's the rub that I think we're up against here. So to me, I personally feel, you know, we don't really have enough information to vote to support it, because there is no plan in front of us other than, gee, we're gonna go raise some money, and gee, we're gonna.
Well, even if it wasn't about, you know, making money off it somehow later on, it's really about what, all right, it's 250 now. Let's tell us what it's gonna be next year, what you're gonna need, and the year after that. And, you know, there's probably a 5-year cycle here of money that would have to be put into this to get it to, or a few years anyway, right?
But unless there was a sugar daddy, or unless there was an organization who was interested in doing something. And if they're out there, wonderful, but if they aren't,
Yeah.
the town's on the hook for it, and that's the issue.
Well, I think we should at least wait for them to meet. If you said they were meeting
They're meeting.
tomorrow night,
Meeting tomorrow.
we should probably
again.
wait on this
So
as
should
well.
we wait until when we meet on the 3rd and vote that article too, as well?
Well, we could vote, yeah, this part of the CPC. I think the rest of the CPC article is pretty clean.
Yeah, it is.
You could vote for the balance.
We could vote the balance of their article tonight, and then this particular piece, we could, again, wait, give them another month to put their plan together, and I don't know, maybe they pull a rabbit out of the hat.
Okay.
I would, we can do that, but I'm not gonna vote for approval of the article.
So should we just,
There's a whole constituency out there that says seniors. Would the town go up, buy us a piece of property and put a senior center in? But they'll buy.
It's a real old house, Alan.
No.
You can put all the seniors in a real old house.
Yeah, good move. I'm just saying, there's
That's a clear,
going to be a bunch of people that said, there again, the town tells us we can't have a senior center, no money, but all of a sudden, we can buy this old house.
yeah.
We don't know why we're buying it, or maybe they'll do something with it, but we're gonna buy it. And if they don't do anything with it, the town's on the hook for it. In the meantime, they've done it to us again.
I personally think we should wait until we have a complete article and then vote it.
Sure.
all at once.
I'm just telegraphing my vote, that's all.
No, I get, I get where you're coming from, but I'm just thinking, rather than take a partial stance on this article, I think we should just vote it as a whole when we know what it is. And then we can either say we're in favor of the article minus the Robinson Road, or we're in favor of it with it. Just my thought.
I like that.
I don't care.
Because then it might send a kind of a mixed signal. Somebody's reading this and, well, they supported all but one piece of it. Why wouldn't we just make that?
What I'll do, I'm drafting the town meeting report, final edits. I can shape this as two motions, just
Okay.
as I did on the previous
other
one,
one?
because if item 9 would require a 2/3 vote, so I can pull that out as a motion 2. So if you want to do a motion, approve
Motion
motion
one.
1, everything except,
The same way we did on
Items
the other
1
one.
through 8.
Okay,
yeah, 1
Are you
through
okay-
8 would
are you
be
okay with
motion
that?
1.
yeah, I like that better.
So
Yeah, it's just
I'll
such-
carve those out as separate
Takes a
motions.
different vote anyway.
So we'll call it motion 1 on Article 9,
Yep.
and it will be everything except for the Robinson Road
Right.
project.
It'll cover items 1 through 8.
Yeah,
Okay, so,
good.
And just for your information, if you go to the second page, behind that, or the last page regarding that, on page 35, that little chart that I've got here gives you the balances at the end of the, the town meeting and the, so you can see the adjusted balances for open space, for example, would be 266, 889, 17. And that's assuming all of the items pass.
Right.
So if the Robinson Road does not, for some reason, it gets pulled back, the balance would go up
To
from the
about
152
400,000.
to,
Be about
you know,
400, right?
Okay.
So, I mean,
Are we good with that?
yeah, I mean, this is gonna be an interesting,
Yeah.
even a month from now, I'd like to see, but this is a beautiful historic piece of property for sure, but it's just not having any financials and what we're in for is where I have an issue with it. I mean, you know, Alan's statement, sure, that's understandable. I mean, what you said, how that, a lot of people are gonna view it
It's
that
gonna
way.
play with a certain constituency.
Right, absolutely, but I think outside of that, I mean, there is, you know, when the two ladies came in, there was definitely an interesting aspect to it, and I had mentioned that it ties in a little bit with the, you know, the new community we're trying to put in the center of town, maybe a little bit. If this was an up and running place you could go and listen to art or music or a
And the only-
band, I don't know, but.
In the only alternate position to Alan on this is that it is coming out of the historic bucket.
Yeah, we
So-
couldn't do that
So
for
that
this.
money
for the-
is only for historic purposes.
No, I
And
understand.
I know you're historic, but,
Yeah. No, that's,
you know, so
I
from
was
that's the
president
only
of the
argument.
society and
you're
also
right.
chairman of the historic commission, so I have a feeling for that, I understand that. I'm just telling you what, there's a whole new other constituency out there that comes to the meetings, and that's how they're gonna feel about it.
Well, and
Or
it's not
how
only
they
that, I
could
mean,
feel
from
about
our
it.
standpoint, it's, I mean, going forward, it's the operating expenses that I'm looking more at.
Yeah.
And so now you're balancing that with more money for all the other things in town, and so, again, totally understand the value, but,
Without the business plan.
but you still have to look at, you know,
Yeah,
this
if-
versus schools, this versus all the other things that we have to do, and.
Right, but if the nonprofit was able to come in with a business plan that was supportable, then in a heartbeat,
Maybe they'll buy some lottery tickets and win big between now and then, and they'll have a nice trust fund for it. That'd be beautiful.
I
I'd
think,
love it.
to your point, Fred, though, those funds that are being allocated for that could only be allocated for something historical anyway.
Right, right.
So it's not like they can say, well, or we can say, let's put it somewhere else, because really, it's gotta be for a historical project.
But that's just to get it up and going, though. That's still not the ongoing maintenance.
Right.
No, you're right, there's,
It doesn't even get it
to your
up
point, I'm not
again.
arguing
Right,
that,
right, right.
your point is spot on, I mean,
Oh,
there's no
absolutely.
plan to
That's
maintain
why-
it.
It's a structure.
Yeah.
That's why I was antsy about it.
Even the crowd sees it.
You're good, Greg, you're good.
Is that our overflow room over there?
Right.
All right,
Article
so,
10.
so unless there's any other debate about Article 9, we're gonna look to, when we make the motion, it'll be motion 1, which is items 1 through 8.
Yep.
Article 10, you'll probably also want to withhold your recommendation until we have the final numbers. Once we reach agreement with the collective bargaining units, we have 4 for the town side. We will drop the numbers into here, and they'll be used to augment Article 4.
We've reached a tentative agreement with one of the unions. They have the rank and file votes on it on Monday during the day. If they approve, the selectmen will ratify that night, so we will have
Which union?
one of the highway.
Highway.
Okay, so now we have 3 topics for June 3rd, be the collective bargaining,
May 3rd.
motion 2 and motion 2.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
There were a couple of motions on 8 and 9, motion.
So just out of curiosity, if that's the only one that's reached by then, that we already have, what do we do in that situation with it?
We go with what we have.
That's it, okay, so just,
And the others don't get funded
Because
until
the
the
others
next
don't
town
get
meeting.
funded until the next town meeting.
so that's the,
So, and we've sent the signal as a, I mean, everyone, they're all aware of it.
Yeah, okay.
Resent the signal that we have a practical deadline of May 7th to reach agreements. So, I mean, some years we've signed the contract on the floor of town meeting and then reported out that night, but we're hopeful that all of the units come in.
Okay.
Is it possible that if it got pushed out till like the fall town meeting, that it would be retro? Or is it something that?
Oh, sure, it would be retro.
Always.
That was, that's what I thought, but.
Just the timing of when you get your
That
money.
is typically,
Yeah.
we have had some years
in your hand.
when we didn't have all 4 union contracts ready by annual town meeting, and whoever came late waited until May, but it was retro to July 1st, to November, but retro to July 1st.
Okay. Article 11,
Yes, that will be the personnel bylaw adjustments. There'll be no funding behind this because it is included in Article 4, but we'll approve the grid,
grid,
the
the
wage
pay
and class
scale.
study, yes.
we're gonna get that when, we'll see it in here, right? It's not ready
No, the Personnel Board just adopted it
Yeah, we-
this morning.
yet. So that another one we'll
You're
hold
part of that, right?
until June, or May 3rd? Or we wanna vote it?
This one,
Yeah.
personnel bylaw?
Yeah, it's got
Well,
to
we need to
It's
see the
done.
do
schedule.
salary
It's a-
grid
You want to
it's
see
a-
the
associated
schedule.
with it.
Schedule, you wanna see the schedule, there's no schedule.
Reflects,
all, right?
the schedule reflects implementing
The
the salary
increase, so we,
study
yep.
that we just did, and applying a 2% cost of living adjustment to it.
Very good. Wait till we see it.
I think-
Will we have it for June 3rd?
Oh, yeah, you'll have
Okay.
it.
No,
I
you'll
mean,
you'll have it.
you can
May
have
3rd.
it tomorrow.
I know you wanna go to town meeting in June, but May 3rd, yeah, May 3rd, you got
Well,
me
I'm not gonna
saying.
be here in May, so I don't care.
Yeah, if they just approved it, we can get it out.
Okay.
So we'll put Article 11 on for, okay, good, yeah. Okay,
12.
12.
So
Good
this is.
thing we called a meeting.
This is the regular appropriation into the stabilization fund in order to maintain our 5% minimum balance in the operating budget. So this year it requires 42,000, that's coming out of free cash. Again, it's in compliance with the financial policies.
And we don't have any extra we can put in there.
Well, we're gonna put some into capital stabilization.
That's in the next article.
That's in the next article. So Article 13 is where we really looked at drawing down the reserves that are, or the excess balances of free cash and putting it into either capital stabilization or debt exclusion stabilization. What we are proposing here is we had to put at least 35,000 into the capital stabilization fund based on our financial policies. We're looking to add an additional 2.7 million, just over 2.7 million, into the account, which will bring the balance to 3.154091 as of July 1st. So this funding, once it's appropriated into capital stabilization, can be appropriated out at any other town meeting by a 2/3 vote. So I don't have to wait for certification of free cash again if there's something that comes up. You have to wait a whole year. And again, it complies with all the financial policies. It keeps us in good standing with our bond rating companies. Article 14 puts the money into the debt exclusion stabilization fund so that I can reduce the debt for going out to fiscal 2025. So by appropriating this money in here, the 242, is that what it was? Yes, 242,871. By appropriating it in here, we'll be able to maintain the excluded debt level down to the 2025 level from here until then.
Awesome.
So we review this every year. We keep pushing it out a year or two every year. So it's a great program. Trust fund commissioners, the trust fund commissioners have approved this already to transfer 16,800 out of the trust funds, primarily for the high school innovation center, 12,800 to do the additional phase 3 work for that project. They've been doing that for the last 2 years. And DEHS, which is the Department of Elder and Human Services Animal Assistance Care Program, 4,000 for assistance for people who need that. Let's see. And 16 is the Senior Citizens and Veterans Tax Work-Off Program. We increased this this year to 80,000 to kind of mitigate the erosion that we had for previous years where minimum wage kept creeping up and we didn't increase this account. So we've been able to kind of, mitigate that now.
Just as a point of order, if any of our seniors are on that work-off program, you need to abstain, and I think you're on the veterans one, right? So you need to abstain when we vote that.
You can't afford my rates.
This is money that's budgeted in the overlay account, overlay surplus, or the allowance for abatements. So it's already set and taken care of.
Good.
Use of Chapter 90 funds, this just allows us to actually use the money that the state sends us. It's a reimbursement account for $397,966. It's incorporated as part of our roadway plan, so it's helped with New Estate, Nagog, and all of the other roads that we've improved.
What's the trend on that?
Well, you can see the year before it was 395,000, so
It's gone up a couple of
it goes up a little bit.
$1,000, so it's pretty flat.
Every once in a while, the state will have like a special bond issue that I think a few years ago, we got an additional 200,000 or something
Yeah.
that they added to it. But it's like a one-time thing and then they don't do it the following year, so,
That's for Chapter 90.
yes.
Yeah, a few years ago, one time, there was a $300 million bond issue statewide, and so we got
I think it was
a
like,
third more that year. It was 1 year only, and it's been 200 million statewide since then,
yeah.
before.
Got it. Okay.
So I would anticipate it staying at this level, this time.
Okay.
Article,
We already talked about
Yeah, we
18
did
and
that,
19.
18,
We're
we
good
did
though.
19.
Good there.
Article 20 is zoning amendment.
That's
We're going for a record. Should we go for a record?
It could be,
Yeah,
that could be.
Article 20 is a future revenue.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding, because it's not only as a, I mean, right now, we've got a host community agreement for the cultivation site for medical marijuana. That would carry over to, that licensee is allowed to expand his use from medical to recreational marijuana. That's the way the law works. And our host community agreement calls for additional funds. We're getting the first $25,000 in host community payment next Monday night at the selectmen's meeting, and it maxes out at about $110,000 a year currently. Beyond that, this proposal calls for 2 retail establishments for recreational marijuana. The reason is because, and from retail sales, you can apply a sales tax. We need to go back to town meeting to adopt that, but it could be a not inconsequential figure. It could be
The
rather
local
substantial.
sales tax?
Local.
Like, kind of like the hotels?
Local, yeah,
Oh, that's a cash cow.
local. And just so you know,
Buy some.
and so just for perspective, the voters of Littleton approved the statewide ballot question in November 2016, approving recreational marijuana statewide. For those communities that voted in favor, and ours did, Westford didn't, they voted a majority opposed, but Littleton voted in favor, and for communities that did, it would require a further ballot question vote to limit or prohibit the recreational marijuana in the community. And absent that ballot question, that ballot vote at an election, you're in the marijuana business. And anywhere where retail is allowed, you would be allowed to, the medical marijuana facility would be able to operate. We're looking to, the selectmen and the planning board together are looking to limit where those retail establishments can be located. And they would be located in industrial zones, A and B, as shown on the map that's in the book. The statute also provides a formula that if you don't adopt, if you don't prohibit it by a ballot question or limit the number of licenses by a ballot question, then you have to allow at least a number of retail marijuana facilities that is that is, it's based on the number of package store licenses you've issued, and 20% of that, rounded up.
Thank goodness it wasn't Dunkin' Donuts, right?
Yeah, so we've
I don't know, we
issued,
got quite a few package stores.
we've issued 7 package store licenses.
Yes, 7.
We have authority to issue 8, but we haven't, but, so for the time being, say 7. And 20% of that is 1.4.
Round it up, so 2.
And it rounds up to 2. And in fact, the Cannabis Control Commission ruled just today that communities must round up. So you cannot round down.
So
So,
competition drives the price of weed down.
yeah, so,
Wayne's
so
World.
that absent a ballot vote to limit the number of licenses or prohibit certain uses, the planning board and the selectmen, they're taking the position that the voters approved, you know, at a, you know, like 53, it was a 53%, I think, of a presidential election, so a lot of people voted. And so,
It's a mandate,
So it was written.
as close as we get.
yeah.
Makes sense.
So the question now is whether it's just gonna be retail or just,
It will be retail.
no matter what.
It will be retail. If this zoning bylaw fails,
Yep.
then then those 2 licenses would be allowed anywhere in any commercial district
Gotcha.
where
Okay.
retail is permitted. And we don't want to do that. We want to put it,
Control it.
we want to control the location
Okay,
to
so
the
that-
industrial corridors.
That needs,
But it's still not a financial article that we need to take a position.
No, it's
like a
not,
long
it's
term.
not
Not
yet,
yet.
but it will certainly take on financial dimensions in the
But
future.
if you do vote for it, then you get free samples on the way out.
We'll invite you to the tour, yeah. So
Yeah,
I think
I've
I
never
think it'll be
smoked
more,
stuff.
I think it'll be more like when if you're in Lynchburg, Virginia, or Tennessee, rather, and you tour the Jack Daniel's distillery, that county is dry.
Yeah.
So they make it there, but you can't drink it there.
Keith, I was just, I don't remember, where is the cultivation site? I remember when all that went through, but I don't remember where it
It's
is.
at 234 Taylor.
right up by,
It's right on the
right across the street from
Foxborough
Whitley
line,
Square.
is my county
Is that where it is,
line.
over there?
Point
Okay.
it over there. point
Back
it
behind
it
where
doesn't-
XRE was
and it
and those
doesn't
places
smell.
back there?
Just walk the road.
But we're in the process of scheduling a ribbon cutting and a tour. It's been suggested we do it on April 20th for any of you who are
Patriots Day?
at the, no, it's the day after Patriots
That's the day
Day.
after.
Well, they put a lot of money into that building.
It looks good. No, I mean, the facility,
A lot of money.
it's, you got to go by now and you say,
Go
oh,
by and look.
Yeah, I
it used to just
haven't
be
been
a
up there.
dim, dark, now it actually, it's operating because you can see everything spinning
Operating and,
outside.
with
So
electricity.
they did some additions to the building and it looks good.
Is that given an agricultural designation, or how is
No.
that? No, so how are we taxing that? What kind of tax revenue are we gonna get out of that?
Commercial.
Just commercial tax? But that'll be growth.
It's commercial, and
Right?
categorically, the state law does not allow it to be considered
Improvements will be
agricultural.
Improvements of growth. Okay, got it. All right. Well, thanks for that update on that, Keith.
It's a cash crop, but. that won't be-
A lot of money there.
Don't they have to pay all their bills in cash?
It's the world's
Well,
biggest export.
that, you cannot get bank financing for the ground,
That's right.
I saw an article.
where it's,
Very
and
bizarre.
we're all, of course, it all depends on the attorney, on
Colorado.
Jefferson Beauregard Sessions not, shutting us down.
Legal stuff.
What gets tweeted this morning, who knows, right?
A teammate of mine from college is in the business, as a farm out in Colorado.
Mhm.
It-
It's
If-
where they have a 30,
If you note the
yeah.
2 areas where they'll be able to sell it are right next to the middle school and right next to the high school, so the kids won't be driving to buy their weed.
Well, that's good.
It's according to the map.
It's not right next to it.
That's good.
It's right down.
Was that one I saw in Colorado with the Girl Scout cookie?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Table.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurial.
There you go. The munchies
Way to
go
go.
for it, right?
All right, well, very good. Okay, so that's,
Nothing there.
there's nothing, I think the last two are 24 and 25. that look like-
Article 21 is the tax title properties, to put properties into the,
Yeah, but we don't vote on that, do we?
Let's take a look.
in the past,
I missed-
you sometimes decided to and sometimes
Yeah,
not.
let's see.
You voted against
Yeah.
one recently.
We did,
Yeah.
we did. You were part
I
of,
was
big part of that.
Yeah, Well, I was worried about the dollars.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
So this is the parcels on Manchester and Newtown.
It's the same tax title property that we carved up at the October town meeting, and that we're just taking two more slices out of it.
You're looking,
It's just the two, what are they, 10-foot sections off the back? of
Extending their
the
property, yeah.
Yeah. it's
Okay.
Yes.
Still can get,
10-foot yard.
that's traditional tax butter property type thing where it's really small.
Right,
There's
This
no-
this conform,
there's
this
no
would have
value
those
to
two
the town.
new lots conform with the tax title butter.
Yeah.
And then it would transfer the remaining into the
Bigger than
conservation
Williams.
property, the conservation.
It'd go to the.
Yes. So it's up to you if you want to consider that or not.
I don't know, what do we think for? Do we need to take a position on that?
we voted on the bigger one, though.
Yeah, well, the bigger one was more of a financial play. I don't see a big
No, it's
financial
not.
play here, but, you know, we can still take a position. if you want. You want to take a position on it?
Yeah.
No?
Fine with me.
Then we won't. We'll play Switzerland.
Article 22 is a voter petition for plastic bag, checkout bag reduction. So this was a presentation that was given at the selectmen's meeting about phasing out the use of plastic bags at
Is
retail
that,
establishments. It doesn't have a financial impact. I mean, you could argue that there are fines levied. I don't know about the,
This is definitely, you want to stay away from
That's
this
it.
one.
we'll let the political parties discuss that.
and then Article 23 is his Board of Selectmen and Historical Commission about amending the historic demolition bylaw.
Oh,
The substantive change is to increase from 6 to 12 months, the period of delay for historically significant structure. The original draft of this bylaw also would have required that any structure that's 50 years old or older would be subject to the demolition delay bylaw. And
50 years?
yeah, it's, you know, 1968, the urban renewal, they were tearing everything down.
I got one more year, my house is gonna be,
Coming up on 200 of my place.
Well,
I think probably your house is the only house that doesn't fit into that, so you better tear it down now.
But that was taken out by,
I think it's a reasonable proposal. We don't need to vote on it, but
yeah. Did this happen with the, because of the Durkey treehouse? No, treehouse. Turkey Tree Farm property? I know that.
no,
There was some
I
discussion.
think just in general that with some of the
time to
delays
react.
they've been having,
Oh,
6
okay.
months, 6 months is not really enough to,
Right, no,
Fine.
Do anything.
you know,
Agreed.
find someone who might relocate.
yeah.
And the other thing about it is, should the other article fail, we can keep the Robinson Roadhouse for an
Keep it there
additional
for a
6
year.
months.
There you go.
There's got to be a silver lining there somewhere.
Get to look at it, go take some pictures, document a few things, get 6 months to do it.
Article 24 is the standard borrowing authorization that we approve every year. It just gives Mr. Venuti the authority to borrow in anticipation of revenue, should we need it. We haven't had to since we went to quarterly billing, but it's always good to have in case you need it. And Article 25 is also allowing the treasurer to enter into compensating balance agreements as he needs to. Standard.
5 articles.
Steve Venuti article.
The Steve Venuti.
Thanks for walking through those. Now comes the hard part. So I've got here, check my math, Fred, on this, please. I got Article 3, 4, 5. We already voted on 6, the water, we did that earlier. 7,
Yeah,
8's motion 1 only.
8, motion 1, yep.
9 is gonna be motion 1 that Keith's gonna draft, and that covers items 1 through 8.
Yep.
Everything but Robinson Road. We're holding 10 and 11, so it'll be 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, But 16,
Gary has to abstain.
Gary needs to abstain from that because that's the tax work-off thing. 17, 24, and 25.
Yeah, we already did 18 and 19, yep.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to look for a motion for all that I just rattled off.
I'll make a motion, what do you say?
Okay.
No, I can read them, I guess, for
Just for clarity.
Exception is
clarity on the minutes here. Okay, make a motion that the Finance Committee vote to recommend in the annual town meeting, May 7th, 2018, Article 3, Article 4, Article 5, Article 7, Article 8, Motion 1, Article 9, Motion 1, which is inclusive of items 1 through 8. Line, Motion 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 24, and 25.
Okay, should we take 16 separate because Gary needs to abstain from that? Or should we?
Did what?
No, I don't utilize the program.
Because he utilizes the program.
I don't utilize it, but I am eligible.
I thought you did.
Because I haven't
You haven't,
utilized it.
because Ann
But-
said we need to.
Yeah,
make sure
I
you-
should abstain anyway, just because I.
Yeah, but then, does that mean they need to abstain from the senior one? Or some of us, I guess I could probably too, I don't know.
Yeah, I specifically.
If that's the case, if we're not participating
Looks like you may
though.
have the rule of necessity at work.
Well, let's move 16 off to the side then for now, and let's vote all those other articles. How's that sound? So all but 16,
So,
and we'll do
all right,
16.
so
Did I
I
miss,
said minus 16.
did I miss something? I mean, did we already vote special town meetings Article
Yeah,
3?
the special,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, you gotta come back,
Literally,
you're in the
yeah.
back.
yeah.
Actually, we're,
Just asking.
We'll come back to you. We do have to.
Yeah, so
So
what Fred said, minus 16.
minus 16, okay. and
Seconded.
And the reason for pulling 16 is?
We'll vote it separate. We're just gonna vote it right after this. So Gary can abstain from it. Because Gary needs to abstain from 16.
I don't, that's all.
Whatever,
Okay, but
that's
is there
fine.
one, isn't there similar for the senior also?
Are you guys on, are any of you on the text?
No, but he's not doing it either, but he's not doing it now, he said.
Right,
So
but
we're eligible, if somebody's old
Right.
enough, they're eligible to do
I
it.
did apply.
He applied
so
for
I
it, 'cause
can't.
Ann
you
said,
won't
I
have
see,
any-
need-
sorry, I didn't understand, okay, I didn't mean to get personal, sorry, excuse me.
No, no, that-
I
that's
thought
all.
you said you hadn't done it yet, okay.
Okay,
What Fred said, second.
Okay, so minus 16, we're
That's
good,
fine.
okay.
No, that's fine.
All right, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? All right, so we're good on all of those. Now, Article 16.
now I'll make a motion that we vote on the Gary Wilson article. All in favor?
That's not going in.
I need it seconded.
Second.
All right. Make a motion that the Finance Committee supports Article 16, the annual town meeting.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain.
Well, thank you guys anyway.
One abstinence over here. Okay, so we did vote the special town meeting articles while you stepped away. You stepped away as I started to go through that. So if you want to take a position on that
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
probably vote in the affirmative.
in the affirmative. Okay, so now we know that we've got a full board on the special town meeting.
Unanimous.
as well.
Unanimous, okay?
We're all unanimous. And then we'll take up Article 8, the second motion, Article 9, the second motion, 10 and 11, when we meet on May 3rd. You good, Mr. Bergman?
yep,
Okay,
got it all down.
all
So,
right, awesome. Okay, so, let's see here, what else we got? Oh, the annual, moving on, unless there's any other discussion with the, thank you, guys. Move on
The report.
to the report. So I gave you my edits for that. Do you want us, I didn't send them out to everybody. Did you
No.
make those edits?
I have not been in the office, so, no.
Okay. If you could make those edits and then just send it out to everybody to take a quick look at. The only question I had, I mean, the two minor clerical error, changes that I made.
Yeah.
Were just nothing major. But the only question I had was, you mentioned in there, let me pull this up. The some dollar amounts that are needed too.
Yeah, I can fill the dollar amounts in.
In the second paragraph, said over the past several years, the town of Littleton has financially benefited from the exceptional new growth, primarily coming from large projects including FIBA, Potpourri, and The Point, and increasing housing units. I'd like to get an idea of how that breaks out.
For this year?
Yeah, so how much of it's residential versus how much of it is commercial growth? And I'd like to call that out in here a little bit more, a little more
Maybe
defined.
with residential growth making up the majority, or X%, or...
Yeah, I'll give you the breakout, because I'll have that.
It'd just be good to know that. I mean, other than that, it's just a couple of grammatical things, and
Okay.
then we just need the numbers plugged in. So if you can get that done and get that out to everybody so they can take a look at it, and if there's any more comments, we can finalize it. When do you need it, Keith?
Yesterday.
We need it by Friday, so,
Yep, I'll do it tomorrow.
okay. So we can get that
I'd
done.
love to have it by Thursday, actually.
Yeah, I'll
I'm
have it
good
out
with
today.
those changes, I'm good with it, but I
Okay,
just want to make
yeah.
sure the rest of the board gets a chance to weigh
Because
in.
I will be, I'm gonna send Bonnie tonight my updated draft with the motions and how I recorded your recommendations to review that. If we can drop your report into it, we'll be ready to go.
Yeah, that'll be pretty easy to do that. Okay. All right, where are we on this agenda? What else have we got here? Annual report, financial dashboard, I mean, we kind of covered all the financial stuff, so I'll get that updated once we get past town meeting. Any member updates?
We talked about the two that I had with the sewer and the Robinson property.
I can give a quick update on the, like, once again, every meeting, the police chief search. So we, the subcommittee will be meeting this Thursday night for our recommendation to the selectmen. We have two things on the agenda. The first, it will be an executive session.
How many are you sending forward to the?
That's our first discussion
How
for
many?
vote.
Okay.
It's either going to be 2 or 3 as per the discussion, or the charge from the selectmen. They've mentioned 2, no more than 3, so we'll have that. And then, following that, we'll vote on
The 2 or 3?
the 2 or 3. And the
The
selectmen-
space needs, I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. No, and the selectmen are scheduled to meet next week to start their interviews of those individuals and then their selection to follow. So we're within a few weeks of a new police chief. So
Excellent.
exciting times.
So are you ranking the 3 that you're sending, or just sending 3?
Everybody has their own ranking system, but yes, we're all ranking all 5 really that we interviewed and were assessed. Everyone's got those documents.
Everyone has their own ranking system, or there's a standard ranking system that everyone's using?
Well, the assessment center is the assessment center, so
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Okay.
Your ranking system, I guess, would be based on how you felt the interviews went.
Right.
So
From your perspective, it's a
Yeah,
perspective,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so,
Would it be
Subjective,
each
yeah.
individual
Right.
interviewer's
right,
idea? Okay.
and then anything else that people want to add,
Okay. Good.
so it's, so I'll say it's been an interesting process, great vetting process to get down to the final few candidates, but it has taken up an enormous amount of time, so I'll let you know.
So you're a
Space
gov-
needs
you're a
study
government
group.
employee, so-
Nothing but time, right?
That's a special.
Gary, it's down to 5 right now?
Right, as we sit here today, yes.
Yeah.
Until we meet, and then it's our job to get it down to either the 2 or 3 that the selectmen, that'll be our discussion.
And what'd you start with? How many applications?
41.
41, yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Well,
That's a lot of work getting through that.
there was one from Texas, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
We have-
Illinois, Texas, we had.
And when they come to interview, is that on their own? And this isn't like business where you pay for it, or?
Well, we didn't, unfortunately,
person
fortunately,
they-
they didn't make the interview process.
I had a first-round candidate in Provincetown for police chief, and he was in Texas, and we interviewed him over a conference call. And we liked him so much, we brought him here, we paid for him
Right.
for round 2, and then I hired him.
Wow.
Wow.
Texas
He's
to
gone to the
Provincetown.
Worcester
There's a-
Police-
there's a
He's gone to
switch.
the Worcester Police Academy, he's from Massachusetts.
So he
okay.
was, he was,
And he brought a six-shooter with him.
his 10-gallon hat.
Yeah, well, if he, yeah,
Had no cow.
if he just worn chaps, he would have fit right in.
On that note.
Are we still alive? We are. We've gone down the drain.
You know what?
He was the only one that didn't.
I know.
Him and Clyde.
I'm gonna look for Fred's favorite time of the meeting, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Good meeting. See you guys.